And today we continue with chapter 2, the separation and the at-one-ment, and we are going into the special principles of miracle workers. So let me share my screen so we can get right into it. Okay. The miracle abolishes the need for lower order concerns. Since it is an out of pattern time interval, the ordinary considerations of time and space do not apply. When you perform a miracle, I will arrange both time and space to adjust to it. A clear distinction between what is created and what is made is essential. All forms of healing rest on this fundamental correction in level perception. Never confuse right and wrong mindedness. Responding to any form of error with anything except a desire to heal is an expression of this confusion. The miracle is always a denial of this error and an affirmation of the truth. Only right-mindedness can correct in a way that has any real effect. Pragmatically, what has no real effect has no real existence. Its effect, then, is emptiness. Being without substantial content, it lends itself to projection. The level adjustment power of the miracle induces the right perception for healing. Until this has occurred, healing cannot be understood. Forgiveness is an empty gesture unless it entails correction. Without this, it is essentially judgmental rather than healing. Miracle-minded forgiveness is only correction. It has no element of judgment at all. The statement, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do," in no way evaluates what they do. It is an appeal to God to heal their minds. There is no reference to the outcome of the error. That does not matter. The injunction, "Be of one mind," is the statement for revelation readiness. My request, "Do this in remembrance of me," is the appeal for cooperation from miracle workers. The two statements are not in the same order of reality. Only the latter involves an awareness of time, since to remember is to recall the past in the present. Time is under my direction, but timelessness belongs to God. In time, we exist for and with each other. In timelessness, we coexist with God. You can do much on behalf of your own healing and that of others if, in a situation calling for help, you think of it this way: I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent Him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because He who sent me will direct me. I'm content to be wherever He wishes, knowing He goes there with me. I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. I really like that last one. There seemed to be a lot in there, and I don't know if it was necessarily in any particular order. I was trying to realize a sequence, but I felt like it was just kind of putting out a lot of different information, which was all extremely powerful. Anybody have anything they want to share or add or talk about?
Maybe a clear distinction between what is created and what is made is essential. We kind of think of created and made as synonyms, and therefore the clear distinction is, is not clear.
Okay. Created and made. I know there's information about this.
It was right at the beginning of what you read, 12.
Right. No. I just read, I saw where you found it.
Yeah. We knew you were looking elsewhere, but just in case you.
Yes, I wanted to see what I could find with regard to the word creation. So in the glossary, creation is the extension of God's being or spirit, the cause that resulted in his son, the effect. Creation is described as the first coming of Christ. It is the son's function in heaven to create, as it was God's in creating him. And it says, note, exists only at the level of knowledge and is not equivalent to creation or creativity, as these terms are used in the world of perception. And it says, see creations and see make/create. So creations is the extension of our spirit, the effects of our creating, analogous to the creation when God created his son by extending himself. As extensions of Christ, our creations are part of the second person of the Trinity. Creation is ongoing in heaven, beyond time and space, and independent of the son's lack of awareness of it in this world. And let me go to made-create.
We're guessing now, although we'd love to hear it. We're guessing now based on that. It seems pretty clear that what is created is God extending themselves, and what is made is what the creations do with their creative power.
Right. So that's correct. So make, create. Spirit creates while the ego makes.
Exactly. Right.
So it says knowledge. Creation occurs only within the world of knowledge, creating truth. And then it says perception, making, also referred to as miscreating, leads only to illusions, used rarely for the Holy Spirit, who is described as the maker of the real world.
Thank you.
I think at some point we don't want to look for it now because we want to be present here, but we think at some point it does say that, yeah, what is created is eternal, unchanging. What is made is temporary, illusory. Yeah.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Thank you all.
Liz to the conversation.
We can create, but we don't. We are create. Well, anyway, no, forget that. We don't know what we're talking about.
It's interesting that we started off this conversation about creation, right? Didn't we? That was part of our discussion before we even started reading this book today, which I always think is so interesting, that the things that we talk about.
We do love 13.2, responding to any form of error with anything except a desire to heal is an expression of this confusion. I mean, we know that a desire to heal can sometimes be misguided as well, but it's a good one for us to remember, you know, when we're seeing error. And we know that if we're seeing error, then we're seeing through our ego, because the Holy Spirit doesn't see error. But yeah, when we think we're seeing error, it's good to remind ourselves that the only response to that is the only unconfused response to that is a desire to heal. Yeah, and to heal ourselves, because first of all, because if we're seeing error, then we're obviously not yeah, we're not aligned with the Holy Spirit. Thank you for that. Yes, we got there in the end.
Excellent. And I love that it's almost a wayfinder, right? So when you see error, then it's like, oh, wait, I'm not aligned with the Holy Spirit. So then it's a course correction, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
Whenever you're not feeling wholly joyous or at peace, you know something has gone wrong.
Mm.
So, yes, I love that. Okay, any other thoughts before we continue?
We hope, Angel, we hope we don't mind us
Never.
sharing this, but
Never.
so when we were talking with Angel before, and we were talking about this, God is my strength, vision is his gift, and so we said, well, for example, and Angel asked for some examples, like some real examples of like how we understood this lesson. And we said, well, for example, right now we feel inadequate to answer your questions. But if we remind ourselves that God is our strength, then we know that we don't have to worry about us being inadequate. We can just, we just know that yeah, we have the power of God within us, and all of that. And it was interesting because we just realized reading this here now that we said that, and when we said that, we then came out with the answer that Angel actually needed to hear. And so it's like, yeah, just reminding by being asked the question, reminding ourselves of what God is our strength actually means, then we were able to get out of the way, and the information that we needed was available, rather than us just being in fear because we feel like we were inadequate. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and isn't that awesome when you get to that place of just remembering that you don't have to have the answers. You're not supposed to have the answers, right? And the ego can never answer. So you can only ask, you can only be a channel for divinity, and you can only listen so that you can share the truth, right? Which is such a good reminder. I know that I've been in so many situations where someone's asked me a question, I'm like, I don't know the right answer to this, because I'm already in fear. So I'm aligned with the ego. And it's like, I don't know what to say. And then I light a candle, take a breath, do whatever I can do to detach and let go and stop the alignment, and then just align with love. And sometimes the answer comes and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes it comes when I least expect it, right? All of a sudden, boom, oh, that's the answer I was looking for an hour ago, a day ago, a year ago.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yes, and it does say, if you ask a question, the Holy Spirit's already answered it. But sometimes, you're just not aware of what the answer is.
You're not in a position to hear it, right? Okay, any other thoughts before we continue? All right, then let's carry on to fear and conflict. Being afraid seems to be involuntary, something beyond your own control. Yet I have said already that only constructive acts should be involuntary. My control can take over everything that does not matter, while my guidance can direct everything that does, if you so choose. Fear cannot be controlled by me, but it can be self-controlled. Fear prevents me from giving you my control. The presence of fear shows that you have raised body thoughts to the level of the mind. This removes them from my control and makes you feel personally responsible for them. This is an obvious confusion of levels. I do not foster level confusion, but you must choose to correct it. You would not excuse insane behavior on your part by saying you could not help it. Why should you condone insane thinking? There is a confusion here that you would do well to look at clearly. You may believe that you are responsible for what you do, but not for what you think. The truth is that you are responsible for what you think, because it is only at this level that you can exercise choice. What you do comes from what you think. You cannot separate yourself from the truth by giving autonomy to behavior. This is controlled by me automatically as soon as you place what you think under my guidance. Whenever you are afraid, it is a sure sign that you have allowed your mind to miscreate and have not allowed me to guide it. It is pointless to believe that controlling the outcome of misthought can result in healing. When you are fearful, you have chosen wrongly. That is why you feel responsible for it. You must change your mind, not your behavior. And this is a matter of willingness. You do not need guidance except at the mind level. Correction belongs only at the level where change is possible. Change does not mean anything at the symptom level where it cannot work. The correction of fear is your responsibility. When you ask for release from fear, you're implying that it is not. You should ask instead for help in the conditions that have brought the fear about. These conditions always entail a willingness to be separate. At that level, you can help it. You are much too tolerant of mind wandering and are passively condoning your mind's miscreations. The particular result does not matter, but the fundamental error does. The correction is always the same. Before you choose to do anything, ask me if your choice is in accord with mine. If you are sure that it is, there will be no fear. Fear is always a sign of strain, arising whenever what you want conflicts with what you do. The situation arises in two ways. First, you can choose to do conflicting things, either simultaneously or successively. This produces conflicted behavior, which is intolerable to you because the part of the mind that wants to do something else is outraged. Second, you can behave as you think you should, but without entirely wanting to do so. This produces consistent behavior, but entails a great strain. In both cases, the mind and the behavior are out of accord, resulting in a situation in which you are doing what you do not wholly want to do. This arouses a sense of coercion that usually produces rage, and projection is likely to follow. Whenever there is fear, it is because you have not made up your mind. Your mind is therefore split, and your behavior inevitably becomes erratic. Correcting at the behavioral level can shift the error from the first to the second type, but will not obliterate the fear. It is possible to reach a state in which you bring your mind under my guidance without conscious effort. But this implies a willingness that you have not developed as yet. The Holy Spirit cannot ask more than you are willing to do. The strength to do comes from your undivided decision. There is no strain in doing God's will as soon as you recognize that it is also your own. The lesson here is quite simple, but particularly apt to be overlooked. I will therefore repeat it, urging you to listen. Only your mind can produce fear. It does so whenever it is conflicted in what it wants, producing inevitable strain because wanting and doing are discordant. This can be corrected only by accepting a unified goal. The first corrective step in undoing the error is to know first that the conflict is an expression of fear. Say to yourself that you must somehow have chosen not to love, or the fear could not have arisen. Then the whole process of correction becomes nothing more than a series of pragmatic steps in the larger process of accepting the at-one-ment as the remedy. These steps may be summarized in this way. Know first that this is fear. Fear arises from lack of love. The only remedy for lack of love is perfect love. Perfect love is the at-one-ment. I have emphasized that the miracle or the expression of at-one-ment is always a sign of respect from the worthy to the worthy. The recognition of this worth is reestablished by the at-one-ment. It is obvious then that when you are afraid, you have placed yourself in a position where you need at-one-ment. You have done something loveless, having chosen without love. This is precisely the situation for which the at-one-ment was offered. The need for the remedy inspired its establishment. As long as you recognize only the need for the remedy, you will remain fearful. However, as soon as you accept the remedy, you have abolished the fear. This is how true healing occurs. Everyone experiences fear, yet it would take very little right thinking to realize why fear occurs. Few appreciate the real power of the mind, and no one remains fully aware of it all the time. However, if you hope to spare yourself from fear, there are some things you must realize and realize fully. The mind is very powerful and never loses its creative force. It never sleeps. Every instant it is creating. It is hard to recognize that thought and belief combine into a power surge that can literally move mountains. It appears at first glance that to believe such power about yourself is arrogant, but that is not the real reason you do not believe it. You prefer to believe that your thoughts cannot exert real influence because you are actually afraid of them. This may allay awareness of the guilt, but at the cost of perceiving the mind as impotent. If you believe that what you think is ineffectual, you may cease to be afraid of it, but you are hardly likely to respect it. There are no idle thoughts. All thinking produces form at some level. Bum, bum, bum. I refer to that phrase so many times. You're much too tolerant of mind wandering. I've said that over and over, right?
Yeah. That whole, can't find it now, but that whole, this little bit is yeah, there's a lot in here for us. And that one, yeah, much too tolerant of mind wandering. Can't find it now. Where is that bit?
Let me see.
And also the correction of fear is your responsibility. When you ask for release from fear, you're implying that it's not. When we work the 12 steps, step 5, we identify our character defects. And in step 6 and 7, we ask for them to be removed. And we identified that fear was at the root of all of our character defects. And so we decide, okay, well, we're just going to ask God to remove the fear. And that's what we did. Like for half a year until we read this book. And then it's like, oh, we're not supposed to ask for fear to be removed. We're supposed to, it's our own responsibility. But of course, that was very fearful, because it's like, oh no, what are we going to do now? We're just stuck with it, because we don't know what to do. So we're going to bookmark this and read it back, because it's, you know, we've come away since then, and maybe we'll understand this passage better, and we will be. But yes, you're much too tolerant of mind wandering and passively condoning your mind's miscreations. It's like, yeah, we know, but how do we stop doing that? Yeah. And it does explain how to stop doing that. It's just quite, the correction is always the same. Before you choose to do anything, ask me if your choice is in accord with mine. We can't imagine doing that with every single thing that we decide to do. And this is where we have a slight thing, that like a bit of not transparency for us in this. So in part 6, it says it's possible to reach a state in which you bring your mind under my guidance without conscious effort. And this is something that really speaks to one of our kind of deep confusions with the course, a bit that we don't really get about the course. So we'd be really appreciative if anybody's got any helpful suggestions here. That Christ is our brother, yeah, equal to us. We're on the same level, although they are like ahead of us, but not in, you know, we're not in time, but not in reality. Like, we feel that we should be bringing our mind under the guidance of the Holy Spirit, not under Christ's guidance. It's like we don't really get why we need this middleman in here.
Can I address that?
I would love it if you would address it, Mary. Thank you.
Okay. Jesus is the man, the person. Christ is the consciousness. Jesus was Christed. He was the Christ. And as the years went on, he became Jesus Christ. And those two words became interchanged, but they're not. So the Christ is actually the spirit, the collective consciousness, the higher consciousness. And so it's not a middleman at all. It's the state that we awaken to.
We knew you were going to take this one, Mary.
Yeah, it's one of my pet peeves. That's why I'm sure Angel's laughing.
Christ is not last name.
That people, you know, interchange those two all the time, and I sit behind a muted microphone going, ah!
It's like, yes, but however, the way that this is written is very much a personification of Christ. You know, why doesn't it say bring your mind under the guidance of Christ's mind, of the Christ within you, or, you know, rather than under my guidance? It doesn't seem to be helpfully written if that is how we're to understand it. So yeah.
In a lot of ways it's not. I balked as Terry was first reading the words control, because I, in particular, have a reaction to it, and I know others do as well. You know, surrendering my control, you know, to, you know, those words were very hard for me to swallow at first, until I recognized that words are just symbols of symbols, and so instead of control, I use the word optimize, or you know, allowing opportunities or something like that. And then that changed everything, because I was not really giving up. Again, some of my issues with the course is that it's still presented in language that almost enhances our fear, if you will, because we're afraid of lack, loss. And so anytime if you use, the words, they come across and make us feel more reluctant. But when you recognize that if that word doesn't reflect good feelings in you, doesn't evoke where it's leading you to, just change the word. Make it something that is inviting, that is expansive, that is, welcoming to you to be there. And then just proceed to envisioning that.
And, and I know Angel has their hand raised, and we'll get to that in just a minute, but as Angel also said, let's finish talking about this. And I just wanted to add something quickly to that, is even the fact that it bothered you is a reminder that there's an alignment with fear, right? The fact that you're being bothered by the fact that like Mary was saying, she was bothered by the word control. And you were saying that, you're bothered by, bothered by the idea that you have to, follow this personification of Jesus Christ, right? So it's like, so why am I feeling fear right now? And again, the easy fix, simple, but not always easy, I guess is what the Course says, right? The simple fix is to just align with love, align with God. But as you stated, why do I have to do that with every thought? Why do I have to do that with every single thought I have? It just seems like so much work, right? And it's like, I don't want to do the work. It's too much. I have too much to do already, besides having to align all my thoughts with God, right? Which then makes everything easier. But we don't realize that because we've made already everything so complicated and hard and separated that we don't realize it. Just aligning with God as often as possible is going to make our life so much easier. But as Mary pointed out, we don't want to give up the control. We don't want to give up the autonomy of having our own thoughts, right? Because we think somehow that's a violation of our personal space. I mean, I could speak for myself. I don't mean to be speaking for you, Kusume.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got nothing more on that. Thank you. So we're curious to hear what Angel has to say.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. 1:6 says, the presence of fear shows that you have raised body thoughts to the level of mind, body thoughts. And then we go over to 6:7. Only your mind can produce fear. Okay. But the presence of fear shows that our body thoughts, right, which is not our mind, got into our mind. Okay. And then our mind went ahead and created fear with that. How are they defining body thoughts?
I would say it's probably the same as what we were talking about, made versus creation. Body thoughts would be kind of what we make with our mind, making our body, thinking that I am a body, thinking that this is who I am versus.
Oh, you're talking about this is thoughts about our body? Because we read it.
No.
Okay.
Thoughts that this world is real because we are a body, because.
Yeah, but our mind thinks that. What is a body thought?
That's what I think it's referring to, is when our mind aligns with the ego,
very good.
Therefore thinks that we are a body. So it's a body identified thought.
Okay.
Does that make sense? That's how I'm reading it.
Yeah,
Everybody has something different.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Okay.
You know, we think whenever we're afraid, we think we're separate. That's how we interpret it. It's like, yeah, if we think we're separate, then we're afraid.
We're a practical question. So we slipped a note under the door that they should be getting any moment, giving our notice where we live. We have applied for another place and we have to go through a government agency in order to get that. They need to inspect it, the whole 9 yards. We don't know how that process happens. We've only been through it once, and that was right after the lockdown. So we've given our notice to move out of here. We have not been approved by either the state or this other apartment. However, we were required to give 30 days notice, 20 days before the end of the month. And so Friday, we went ahead and did that as soon as we found out the apartment was available and like that. And so we really believe that we are relatively nonplussed about this whole thing. Okay. But minor concerns or moments of going, yeah, that was, we are really hanging there by our fingernails, right, for a second, right? We dismiss it, but you know, our understanding of the course is extremely limited. However, if minor annoyance is the same thing as, you know, murderous rage, then probably a little bit of concern is probably terrified, right? And so how exactly is our concerns about navigating this, you know, particularly as an autistic person, right, who frequently hears the definition that, you know, can't possibly be misunderstood, because this is as unambiguous as it gets. By the way, the course told us that the other day, just before it went flying across the room. It didn't really go flying across the room, but we thought about it. Because they say, yeah, this isn't ambiguous at all. The line before that, we're like, what does that mean? That's kind of ambiguous to us. So, but yeah, so the fear that is arising is a lack of love, and we do not see the connection between what we are going through and what we are not loving. We didn't recognize that we had stopped loving anybody or anything. And yeah, so that.
So is there a question in there? Like, why, how is this put into a practical application?
How is our lack of love manifesting itself to create the fear that's coming up on this?
Okay.
Who is it that we're not loving?
Yes.
No.
So love is what you are. Okay. So in essence, as love, perfect love casts out fear. So to have a realization that you are love and that you are part of the one mind of God, and that's the at-one-ment, right? Or atonement, however you wanted to say that. If you're in that place of knowing who you are as love and as part of that one mind, then there would be no fear around anything you do.
All right. You said that we are love, no problem. But this talks about a lack of love. How exactly can we have a lack of who we are?
Because there's confusion about what you are. It's part of, I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God
this
created
is basically, it is not a lack of who we are, it's a lack of understanding of who we are, is what they're saying.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
well, that makes sense, but the way that we read it did not, so thank you.
Yeah, no, of course.
There's another like bit that's written like a poem, isn't there, where it says like perfect love casts out fear. If there is fear, then it produces a state that doesn't, you know, we read it
Right.
a few weeks ago, didn't we? And it's like, it says there's no such thing as a lack of love. Yeah, love is what you are. And then it says things like fear arises from a lack of love. But the lack of love isn't possible, can't possibly exist So yeah, it does encourage frustration, we think.
Yes.
Yeah, but then we have split minds. We have a split mind, and so we are, as long as there is any fear, then we are kind of constantly fluctuating between these two ways of seeing, aren't we? Between vision and illusion, and
Absolutely.
that's what this is trying to.
Absolutely. And I can share that from a place of practical application. As a single mom raising 2 children, trying to build my own business so that I could support them and do whatever I needed to do while being a student and teacher of A Course in Miracles, right? Which, because we are all students and teachers, I was desperately trying to put all of these principles into place because I would wake up terrified every day. I don't have enough. I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. Especially when the recessions would hit, right? Nobody's hiring me. I've got car payments, school payments, this payments, house payments, every payment imaginable under the sun, right? And all I wanted to do was go into bed and put my covers over my head and not wake up and just like not deal with the world, right? But that wasn't an option because I had 2 kids. So I had to get up. I had to take care of my kids. I had to do whatever I had to do. So I would just go through my Course in Miracles. I am not a body, I am free. I would just learn it and learn it and learn it. I give this to God. I would put my running shoes on, go for a run. I would ask so many questions, let so many things go. And then I started getting answers, right? And I was like, wow, that's, and then all of a sudden it's like, I could see it because I was experiencing it, because I was doing the lesson. So it goes back to knowledge plus experience equals wisdom, right? So you have the knowledge that this is what I need to do to get over this lack of love or get over this feeling of fear. Okay, so how do I get the experience? I have the knowledge, I need the experience now. So it goes back to the lessons, right? All right, this is my day. I'm facing all of these fears. I am terrified. How am I going to survive? Well, let's do the lesson. Let's do the lesson over and over and over again all day long and see if that helps. Oh my gosh, it did. And look, this situation that I went to, which I was terrified of going into this situation, all of a sudden, it wasn't that bad at all. It turned out to be a lie. Like the ego was lying to me. I didn't die. I'm still here, right? So as I kept going through the experiences, I kept realizing, okay, maybe this does work. Maybe this is true. Maybe I just need to continue to just let go, let God, continue to align my mind. But it goes back to what you said before, Kuzme, is really I have to do this with every single thing. Like, yeah. It's simple, but it's not easy. It's not.
Have to do it with every single thing and just have it come naturally. Don't force it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's kind of how I got through it practically, my terrifying life, which I can look back now on and say, wow, I did that thing. And that was a hard thing to do. And it worked out to be wonderful. And not only did I survive it, but I thrived and I learned how to be love in the midst of impending fear and doom and all of the things that your mind wants to tell you is going to happen that didn't happen. So
Speaking of that, if we might, it's a little bit of a diversion, but there are people here that know a lot of this. So we think we shared that we got a letter from our doctor a couple of weeks ago telling us that they're not going to take cash pay anymore. And we need to find a new doctor, and because we can't afford to pay cash. And we tried to log on to our insurance website and we were locked out. And we've been locked out now for over 2 weeks. Tier 1 support, tier 2, tier 3, it never gets fixed and we can't get on to find a doctor, and we need a specialist for primary care that has a specialty, and we're running out of our meds. we don't have, they're controlled, we can't fill it, and we can't get on to find a new doctor and such. And that we have not been particularly concerned about. We haven't enjoyed talking to customer service and getting nowhere and wasting that time, but we haven't been as concerned about that anyway. We reached out to our doctor and said, well, can we get an appointment before that happens? So that we can at least see. Anyway, we just received a letter back. Hi, Angel. I am not sure why you got that letter since I'm keeping my Medicare patients. I'm glad you reached out to clarify. Anyway, we're keeping your insurance. Anyway, so that one's done. But it was
Awesome.
it was just funny because that one we weren't real fearful about. The moving thing is taken first that maybe we can relegate that to no fear too and see what happens. But anyway, that's it.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yay, practice.
Yes, thank you, Mary. Thanks, Commissioner, everyone.
I want to add a little shortcut, if I may, that you certainly wind up being mindful of all of the events and all of your thoughts. But if you develop trust or faith or whatever word you want to use that allows you to let spirit be your guide to change your perception, then the only thing you have to remind yourself is, am I seeing things as God experiencing them here on earth would? Am I an extension of God expanding here on earth? And if you come to that, all the other revelations will just fall into place and it will seem easy, because once you get that, all the rest is just applying the principles across the board. And it's shown to you how to do that. You are guided in how to do that. You just have to remember to acknowledge your guide, however you picture that for yourself. And all is well, because you are eternal and always all is well. So there are just a few things to keep in mind. When you do that first, you're not fighting against anything, including ego. You're just accepting, allowing, and in the natural flow of the cosmos.
We'd cease fighting anyone and anything. Got it.
Thank you, Mary. And I experienced that too, when as soon as you accepted who you were, things became more effortless. Opportunities would arise out of seeming nowhere, right? When I would start looking forward to going to places instead of being fearful, because I had a lot of social anxiety. I all of a sudden was like, I'm not at the place I am for the reason I think I am. And I would not be so fearful about being there for the reason I thought I was there. And instead I would be hopeful of, who am I meant to meet here? Who am I meant to see? Which of my brothers am I here to connect with, right? Instead of like, I'm in this place all alone and I don't know anybody. Because that was my fear. I don't know anybody. I'm afraid to be here. I don't want to be here. I don't want to go. And then I had to change that to, I'm hopeful that I am going here on purpose, but it's a purpose that that is not the one I think I am going here for, if that makes sense.
100%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we try to get a little more reading in. We're almost at the end.
We're not going to finish it this week.
No, maybe not. Let's see. Let's see what we can do. Read a little bit more. Oh no, you're right. We have We have two more, so we're not going to finish, but that's okay. We'll continue. Cause and effect. You may still complain about fear, but you nevertheless persist in making yourself fearful. I've already indicated that you cannot ask me to release you from fear. I know it does not exist, but you do not. If I intervened between your thoughts and their results, I would be tampering with a basic law of cause and effect, the most fundamental law there is. I would hardly help you if I depreciated the power of your own thinking. This would be in direct opposition to the purpose of this course. It is much more helpful to remind you that you do not guard your thoughts carefully enough. You may feel that at this point it would take a miracle to enable you to do this, which is perfectly true. You're not used to miracle-minded thinking, but you can be trained to think that way. All miracle workers need that kind of training. I cannot let you leave your mind unguarded, or you will not be able to help me. Miracle working entails a full realization of the power of thought in order to avoid miscreation. Otherwise, a miracle will be necessary to set the mind itself straight, a circular process that would not foster the time collapse for which the miracle was intended. The miracle worker must have a genuine respect for true cause and effect as a necessary condition for the miracle to occur. Both miracles and fear come from thoughts. If you're not free to choose one, you would also not be free to choose the other. By choosing the miracle, you have rejected fear, if only temporarily. You've been fearful of everyone and everything. You are afraid of God, of me, and of yourself. You have misperceived or miscreated us and believe in what you have made. You would not have done this if you were not afraid of your own thoughts. The fearful must miscreate because they misperceive creation. When you miscreate, you are in pain. The cause and effect principle now becomes a real expediter, though only temporarily. Actually, cause is a term properly belonging to God, and his effect is his Son. This entails a set of cause and effect relationships, totally different from those you introduce into miscreation. The fundamental conflict in this world, then, is between creation and miscreation. All fear is implicit in the second, and all love in the first. The conflict is therefore one between love and fear. It has already been said that you believe you cannot control fear because you yourself made it, and your belief in it seems to render it out of your control. Yet any attempt to resolve the error through attempting the mastery of fear is useless. In fact, it asserts the power of fear by the very assumption that it need be mastered. The true resolution rests entirely on mastery through love. In the interim, however, the sense of conflict is inevitable, since you have placed yourself in a position where you believe in the power of what does not exist. Nothing and everything cannot coexist. To believe in one is to deny the other. Fear is really nothing, and love is everything. Whenever light enters darkness, the darkness is abolished. What you believe is true for you. In this sense, the separation has occurred, and to deny it is merely to use denial inappropriately. However, to concentrate on error is only a further error. The initial corrective procedure is to recognize temporarily that there's a problem, but only as an indication that immediate correction is needed. This establishes a state of mind in which the at-one-ment can be accepted without delay. It should be emphasized, however, that ultimately no compromise is possible between everything and nothing. Time is essentially a device by which all compromise in this respect can be given up. It only seems to be abolished by degrees because time itself involves intervals that do not exist. Miscreation made this necessary as a corrective device. The statement, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life," needs only one slight correction to be meaningful in this context. He gave it to his only begotten Son. It should especially be noted that God has only one Son. If all his creations are his sons, every one must be an integral part of the whole sonship. The sonship, in its oneness, transcends the sum of its parts. However, this is obscured as long as any of its parts is missing. That is why the conflict cannot ultimately be resolved until all the parts of the sonship have returned. Only then can the meaning of wholeness in the true sense be understood. Any part of the sonship can believe in error or incompleteness if he so chooses. However, if he does so, he is believing in the existence of nothingness. The correction of this error is the at-one-ment. I have already briefly spoken about readiness, but some additional points might be helpful here. Readiness is only the prerequisite for accomplishment. The two should not be confused. As soon as a state of readiness occurs, there is usually some degree of desire to accomplish, but it is by no means necessarily undivided. The state does not imply more than a potential for a change of mind. Confidence cannot develop fully until mastery has been completed. We have already attempted to correct the fundamental error that fear can be mastered, and have emphasized that the only real mastery is through love. Readiness is only the beginning of confidence. You may think this implies that an enormous amount of time is necessary between readiness and mastery. But let me remind you that time and space are under my control.
That's basically what I just said about the shortcut.
Yep. Yes, it was. Thank you for that, Mary. Anybody have any thoughts they want to share or add about what we just read?
No, we like it. We liked it because it takes a while for things to sink in. And when we say a while, we mean decades sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like every time we read this or listen to it, we can be stunned by how simple things are in there that we never understood before. And yeah, what we got from this today is, yeah, fear is really nothing and love is everything. It's like, so the correction for everything is really, really uncomplicated. And it's like, it seems so obvious, but we don't have to worry about fear. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to engage with it in any way, shape or form whatsoever. We just have to notice it's there and turn to love instead. Okay, we know it's obvious, but that's what we got from today. Yeah.
Awesome. I love too that this part we read, I feel like it just summarized so beautifully almost every conversation we've had today. One in particular was when you said, doing the 12 steps, you said, I'll just give all my fear to God, right? You take care of it. And it just said here that God can't take care of your fear, or Christ is who said, I can't take care of your fear because if I did, I would be doing you an injustice. I wouldn't be letting you realize the power you have in your mind to make a choice. The power to choose love instead of fear belongs to you. And therefore, if God or Jesus or the Christ mind was to take that away from you, they'd be robbing you of such an important experience.
That is really powerful. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Terry. That is really powerful.
We have to head out. Love to all. Thank you. See you next week.
Okay,
See you next
thank you,
time.
everyone. We'll see you next week. Thank you for all the conversation too. It was wonderful as usual.
Bye.
All right, we'll see you next week. Bye, Liz. Thanks for popping up. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernesto.
Yeah.
Have a good day. Bye.